And Dr. Weiss talked about signaling technology on lipolysis, muscle building, and hormone regulation.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the wonderful lecture you gave us before.
Thank you very much.
I will be talking about anti-inflammatory technologies. I will focus on that. I will tell you why. We feel that there is a need for anti-inflammatory technologies. A lot of these technologies cause inflammation. And obviously the problem is not in one treatment, but if, say, results of lasers or radiofrequency last for a year and a half, or even less, then, and if you are 50 years old and you live until 65, you're going to need at least 10 of these treatments or 15 of these treatments, and then the inflammation could become a problem. So I would like to speak about anti-inflammatory technologies. And what basically is wrong with the trauma-producing technologies, that there's a risk of low-grade inflammation that is the main reason, one of the main reasons for aging. Obviously, disease as well is connected with inflammation. It has been associated with a number of diseases: heart disease, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, obesity. Inflammation, the changes in obesity of the inflammatory status of adipose tissue is related to low-grade inflammation. Now, lasers and radiofrequency, there are claims that laser and radiofrequency do not cause inflammation, but again, this is not the result I have seen after several treatments. And maybe in 1 or 2 treatments they do not, or maybe they even help it. But with repeated treatments, there is a problem, and there are controlled studies that have shown that node-like proteins that include NOD1, NOD2, then NALP3, and NAT3, and AIP, which are sensors of immune danger signals during inflammation, have been shown to be present after several laser treatments and radiofrequency. C-reactive protein is the most classic and most known protein in the blood. It's called CRP, and elevated levels of CRP reflect the pressure of inflammation. And there is a lot of studies. The study was Freitas in 2001, but a lot of studies that have followed. And pro-inflammatory markers, interleukin 6, which is for short IL-6, and so on and so forth. Now, this is some of the researchers that have reported increased inflammation after laser treatment, and this is their names, several of them from different countries, including Japan, South America, Europe. And this is the researchers we have found increased inflammation after radiofrequency. Obviously, these are not the only ones. It's just an example. There's several more. Radiofrequency seems to cause more inflammation than lasers, according to the research. And so basically, the idea is, and why we'll be talking about anti-inflammatory technologies, that we cannot really combat obesity with something that is underlined by inflammation. We cannot use inflammation to treat something that is underlined by inflammation. It's the same thing about aging. We cannot really deal with aging with technologies that increase inflammation and therefore will increase aging in the long run, because inflammation is underlying aging. So we want to move into non-traumatic technologies. So we can increase fibroblast secretion or collagen without trauma by utilizing specific signals. And this is what Singaling technology is all about. And if you subscribe to the Nature magazine, you're going to see more and more of these articles coming out every day. Now, started in 1999 with Loschengel et al. And Young et al. In 2004, found a significantly higher production of collagen, for example, at very specific frequencies, as well as changes in the dynamics of the calcium, suggesting the involvement of ion channels in this process. Now, remember, you need to really remember that we're talking about collagen so excessively, but collagen is one out of about 100,000 proteins that exist in the body, and a lot of them are involved in self-reparative functions. They're involved in anti-aging. Now, what proteins are, collagen is one of the proteins. Proteins are the brain of the cell. So basically, increasing proteins as a whole will increase the intelligence of the cell. And signaling technology looks exactly at that. It's increasing several proteins that are involved in youth, or maintaining youth, or basically turning the clock back, if you like. It's a kind of a cliche expression. So signaling technology started by neurophysiology research and different frequencies producing certain parts of the brain. And in cardiology, the pacemaker was basically signaling technology. What the pacemaker was replaced the signals of the pacemaker cells that had faded. In brain research, external frequencies were built in to stimulate and reinstate natural frequencies of brain. And when I was studying neurophysiology about 20 years ago, that was basically something that kind of was attracted my attention. Now, it extended to ion channels, and that's what it gets interesting. And signaling pathways, which is exactly what the new research has started talking about. Is again, it's probably 6-7 years that people have started focusing on ion channel signaling pathways. And basically, what the idea was is that we need sort of a dynamic key, not just one lock, one key to a lock, but something that opens several locks simultaneously, a dynamic key that works on several proteins and hormones simultaneously. Now, every function of the body is the result of a signal. So the way we are seeing aging is not in the classic sense, but basically it's the result of the signal. So it's not that we don't have enough collagens, we don't have the signals to produce the necessary proteins that will basically delay aging. We cannot completely avoid it, unfortunately. And this is a slide that shows you how different cells integrate multiple signals, and it becomes pretty much like a language. Now, this is a research that we did, and we looked at protein-to-protein communications, protein-to-protein signaling. And a lot of researchers, starting with Zia et al., said that aging is proteins do not communicate anymore. And when this protein-to-protein communication starts being reduced, then aging starts increasing. So we looked at different proteins, and you can see that investigating how signaling pathways are organized, and we found from 2,357 successful purifications, there was about 7,123 protein-to-protein interactions. So it's about 3 times as many items that we had. So this is something that basically will become the molecular basis for anti-aging. And if you can see this slide, as you can see, the connections are not one-to-one. They don't go from A to B. It's a sort of a more complex format of connections. That they are very, very kind of they're very complicated, and this is what protein-to-protein communications, and that's what we're talking about, a dynamic key. Dynamic is like something that is, dynamic is almost alive. Dynamis comes from a Greek word, means force. Something that is basically can interact. So we have been researching the aging process of healthy individuals. Now we built something in Cambridge, and we started basically trying to look at it in research in cells, but also do some clinical research and see how it affects the actual person, because doing something in cells is very nice, but I mean, if it doesn't have any clinical effect, then who cares, right? So what we looked at is, at least in the cellular level, It increases actin by 45%. Myosin was an increase by 38%. Hemoglobin was increased. That was very, very high, at a very high result, at 76%. ATPase was increased by 80%. ATPase is the module that produces the energy of the body. So the more modules you have, the more energy you'll create, the more ATP you will create. Testosterone increased by 46%, IGF increased by 62%, insulin increased by 23%. This was a kind of, we don't know very much about this, we have to do more research on it. BUBR1 by 18%, this is a protein that is involved in anti-aging. Cyclic AMP by 63%, G proteins by 57%. Now, G proteins are basically speaker forms. They are increasing signal communication. And sirtuins by 45%. That's a major result because sirtuins are involved in anti-aging, and this is a research that was done in Harvard University. Now, this is some of the statistical results that we did in a clinical study, and this is some of the before and afters that we used. Only one side of the face, and we had judges that were sort of judging which side of the face was more rejuvenated. It's quite obvious, actually. But I mean, you know, and it had to do with obviously a lift, but also you can see this side is more kind of droopy than this side. Wrinkles, that's in the Asian culture, you can see, this is quite, this side has wrinkles, this side does not. And obviously it's this side that we did, the other side is untreated. So only one side, and we left these people for a while to kind of, so we can see if the result was a long-term result. There's some more. This is another study that we did with 12 faces, and again, you can see that there is an overall rejuvenation. There is not a complete wrinkle removal for very, very deep wrinkles. So this is a technique that, you know, probably can be used in conjunction with other methods if you want to have complete removal of wrinkles, but it's an overall rejuvenation. There was a reduction in melasma and pigmentations, and that's something that we see regularly. And basically, this technology, I would like to tell you how it started. And how it started, the first research was from Jerry Pollock. He was one of the co-inventors of the pacemaker, and then he started looking at the motor nerve and basically trying to look at how a normal neuron was behaving, and then he would just add different frequencies and try to kind of rebuild the signal of the motor neuron, pretty much. That's what he was trying to do. And he found what his research, he did about 27 years of research. And what he found from the very beginning is that the most comfortable waveform, and the waveform that was composed by the greater number of frequencies, was a better kind of, it seemed to be more similar to the motor nerve. And the pattern that the frequencies were combined had to be very, very specific. So you couldn't just throw the frequencies all together and hope for the best. You have to actually build it the way you build a house, the way you build say you have Legos and you try to build a house out of Legos, you have to put them in a specific way, otherwise it will not do what the motor nerve does. And what he did, he looked at cortisol levels, and cortisol in urinary free, urine levels before and after the stimulation of, you know, with the device that he built. He built a device called the RSys and then the ion magnum. And basically what he found is that the cortisol levels, there was no difference. So what it means is that unlike exercise, this type of technology was non-stressful. And this is just some before and afters. This is the before, and basically this is the after. This is obviously, you know, one body on top of the next, so you can see the difference. And same thing on legs, and same thing. This is within a week and a half, actually much less, about 4 treatments, that you could see that result. Now, this is another study that was done as a clinical study, and they looked at water, total water content, they looked at muscle mass, and they looked at body fat. And they went from 8/8, 2010 to 3/9, 2010. And the difference, obviously, what you need to observe is that between treatments, there is not that much difference. But if you compare the first treatment with the last treatment, there is a very significant difference. And even in the middle, you know, you can start towards like the 7/8 treatment, you start getting very, very high results. Now, the water content remains the same, so you don't really lose water. You just lose fat, and you exchange fat with muscle. And this is another, this is from a study from India, courtesy of Dr. Badami. Now, there's a study that we did in the United States, and we looked at BMI, which is not as important, but I mean, we just added it in. And we looked at water content, we looked at inches lost, we looked at body fat and muscle mass. And again, there was, we had an iron magnum group, we had an iron magnum afterwards, so this is the before and the after, 24.9, the BMI to 29 to 24. The water content was the same. Then we had inches lost, quite a lot of inches lost, and body fat, there was a big difference, significant difference. And then we compared those results with going to the gym. And there was a difference with the gym group. As a matter of fact, both results are significant. It's just that the results with this technology are more significant. They're faster. And you basically have much more pronounced results. That's the only difference. But it's just like going to the gym.
1 minute.
Thank you. And this is the statistical analysis of these results. And you can see the significance, and the significance was very high in both groups, with the exception of the water content, that there was no significance. Now, we also did another study with MRIs, and we measured concentrations of triglycerides, T3 and DHEA, and we found a significant decrease of visceral fat, subcutaneous fat, and triglyceride levels, and an increase in muscle mass, DHEA, which is also, as you know, involved in collagen, and also in collagen increase, and also in bone density. And we also found a significant increase of T3 concentrations. And we replicated that study with pretty much the same results, like different significance percentages, but there was a significant decrease of visceral and subcutaneous fat, and an increase of muscle mass, decrease in triglycerides, and an increase in DHEA and T3. We also do a testosterone concentration study, and we found a significant increase with 19 subjects of 0.03. But it's only the people that are deficient in testosterone that show this increase. If you're not deficient, then there is no such result. There is also a significant result in detoxification. And what you need to realize is that the reason why I'm saying this is that toxicity interferes with metabolism. So that's why when you're dieting, you reach a plateau level, because after a certain point, you cannot lose any more weight because the toxicity has interfered with your metabolism. So lymphatic drainage is very, very important. This is a blood study, and this technology significantly separates erythrocytes. So it helps not only in the detoxification, but in carrying the waste products to the kidneys, but also in the transport of hormones and antibodies in the blood. There are some independent research studies from London University that looked at RNA and found that there was an expression involved in skeletal genes that are associated with overload, stretch, and physical exercise following this technology. And there was a study by Moneras that he found an increase in insulin sensitivity as measured by clamp. Some more studies have also shown an increase in sensitivity of insulin. And basically, in conclusion, you do have a technology here that is anti-inflammatory, completely anti-inflammatory, causes no inflammation. However, it can give you very potent, very vigorous results, very dramatic results in both anti-aging and body fat reduction and in body shaping. Thank you very much for
Some questions. I think after your presentation we have a lot of questions. We have 2 or 3 questions first. Dr. Friedman, please.
Thank you very much. Very interesting results, but I didn't understand what is the technology. So a lot of results, but what is the technology?
Oh, what the technology is?
What's different?
It's transcutaneous transmission of signals, and because the signal is compatible with the nervous system, then it can form new synapses to the brain or to the proteins, and the model is that because it reaches the brain starts reacting the way it would react in normal exercise.
What kind of signals?
It's a signal that was built over a period of several years. It was basically built by looking at protein signaling and in looking at the motor nerve, and basically building the signal to look just like a motor nerve, like another motor nerve signal. So you basically, it's done through resonance, pretty much, right? So it amplifies the signals of your own signals, the signals of your body. And again, you can only test it in cells. You cannot just take an entire body and look at it, but you can test it in cells, and you can see how the signals match pretty much. Again, we're far away from obviously doing what the body is doing, but it's just a new research. We are just a small part of it.
It's our earth, it's electricity, it's what?
Oh, what it's well, it's it can be electrical or it can be subelectrical, and the best signals are subelectrical because the body works at biochemical signals. It works with very, very low electricity that is measured in nanoamperes. So unlike what we thought before, that with like radio frequency or muscle stimulation that you give very high energy in, this is very, very low energy. It's a transcutaneous signal. I mean,
electric?
It's subelectric.
What is subelectric?
It's extremely low electricity. So it's sort of, it turns into like a biochemical thing. You made it the way a signal is, the body signal is formed. So a body signal has a lot of electrical components.
It is. But so is it an electric or
Well,
a radiation signal?
It's not a radiation, it's more an electrical signal.
Is this commercial or is this just theoretical? I don't understand this presentation at all.
It's commercial.
Well, where's the machine? What show?
We have it in the booth.
In which book?
In the booth inside the conference.
You don't want to show us a picture?
You can't miss it. It's the gold booth. It's Ion Genius, and the devices are IELLIOS and Ion Magnum. Sorry, I'm not supposed to talk about the machines, so
You're not
that's.
supposed to. Why not?
Well, We're not supposed to be advertising machines.
I don't understand
Well,
the presentation.
Actually, if you come to the
we
booth,
can
I will
sorry,
give you.
I need to close this. We can continue, you can continue talk now
Yeah.
in Petit Comité. Thank you for your presence.
Thank you.
See you later.
Thank you.
Okay, you done? Very good. Okay.